2.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. We are calling this a Can't Lose Monday. Apparently, I don't know. There's no NHL on the schedule today, so maybe we can lose. But Tino's been red hot with the NBA picks. He's going to join me in a little bit. There's a busy night in the association. There are no games in the NHL here today. Zero. The Calgary Flames and the Chicago Blackhawks were supposed to play this evening, but COVID is ramped through the Flames lineup, so their games are postponed till at least December 16th. So we'll hit on the Fantasy Hockey Waiver Wire towards the end of this show. It is week 10 in the fantasy hockey season, and there are about 8 or 9 teams playing 4 games for the week. So we'll touch on the waiver wire towards the end of this show, but it will be a lot of football. We're going to recap last night. We're going to preview tonight's game between the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals, a little Monday Night Football. We got picks and props. Tino's going to join me for that. He's got some NBA picks, and I have some NBA three-point props because we can't do shot props today, so we have to tackle the NBA. And I'm all right for it. We got Steph Curry chasing the NBA record here this evening. He's just 7 threes away from breaking Ray Allen's all-time record. We'll touch on that in a little bit, and we will dive into the playoff scenarios in the NFC and the AFC. Those hanging out with us, love it. Orange Man, dude, you are red hot. You are absolutely fire here. Another great night for him. He's been waiting for Mean Streets to show off his ticket. He won another $2,500. Remember, he checked in on Friday's show. He checked in on Thursday's show to get the touchdown calls, and he was successful, and we talked about his picks on Friday, and we're talking about his picks again here today. He had a Jakeem Grant anytime touchdown and a Bears defense anytime touchdown, $2,500. Not a bad $10 bet for you, my friend. A lot of success for FTN subscribers over the weekend. We had a couple, I saw some screenshots, one that I just retweeted from my Twitter account. Like 10K, 20K, good stuff, man. The NFL Optimizer is absolutely fantastic. We've been talking a lot about Jeff Ratcliffe's rankings and projections, the number 1 ranker in the business. And we're seeing some green screens, and I absolutely love it. I love it. Yeah, Tino, Syracuse. I mean, you guys have a nice little Syracuse conversation in there as well. If you're hanging out live on our YouTube page, smash the like button. If you have any questions, you can leave them there if you're watching live, but if you watch the replay on our YouTube page or at FTN Fantasy, FTNBets.com, if you have any questions at all, you can leave them in the YouTube section. I will circle back before tip-off in the NBA. No puck drop tonight, but always circling back before the puck drops, before the main slate really gets underway, and before tip-off or before kickoff in the NFL. So love the conversations happening here live in our YouTube section, but also if you do have any questions, leave them there, and be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to our YouTube page. As I said, a lot to really get through on this show today. I'm wearing the construction orange, as Jake Seeley liked to say this morning on his show All in Football, where we just recapped everything from week 14. And there was, a lot, not a ton of upsets this week. Really, the only teams that didn't cover, the favorites that didn't cover, Cleveland, and I don't know. I think if you back Baltimore, I think you're pretty fortunate for that. I did back the Browns, and my own spread where I picked them by 1, but Baltimore, late touchdown. They actually recovered the onside kick and were pretty much 10 yards away from winning that game with Tucker's leg. But that's the big news of the day here. We're going to follow Lamar Jackson. He is headed for an MRI. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are dealing with something. Lamar Jackson has the ankle. Josh Allen has a foot injury, a mild case of turf toe. Aaron Rodgers had a setback yesterday with his toe. Whether he's going to have surgery or not, he has said before that it would be a quick surgery, maybe a couple pins in the toe, and he wouldn't miss any time. I think if Arizona wins today, that maybe he has that surgery. It's possible that he could have that. And if Arizona loses, Green Bay would get up into that number 1 spot in the NFC. A couple other injuries for running backs. Austin Eckler dealing with an ankle injury. Apparently he is going to be fine. Kareem Hunt dealing with an ankle injury as well, and he's headed for an MRI. It looks like he's going to miss some time. And then we also had... Yeah, that's it. Actually, I thought I had one more running back in here for injuries, but it's kind of escaping my mind. Austin Eckler and Kareem Hunt were the two big ones. But from a spread standpoint, honestly, I mean, if you back favorites, it was a pretty good day for you. As I mentioned, Baltimore, Cleveland did not cover. We had Atlanta that didn't, or Carolina rather didn't cover. Those two teams, right? Like, how could you pick those teams? I almost honestly felt like flipping a coin. I took the home squad in Carolina, but Cam Newton looked absolutely pathetic again yesterday. He got benched and then he came back in. So those were the two teams. And I do believe towards like closer to kickoff, we had Cincinnati as favorites, but it was basically a pick 'em the entire week, and San Fran finds a way to win that game in overtime. Cincinnati had a big, comeback late, but a lot of blowout performances, and we'll get to the playoff scenarios in just a little bit, but there really were. I mean, Tennessee favored by 9, they win by 20. KC favored by 9.5, they win 48-9. By the way, 48-9. That's the only time we've seen a score like that in NFL history, 48-9. Pretty crazy. Maybe Las Vegas shouldn't have went to the middle of the field and just had a bit of a pregame powwow on the Chiefs logo. It didn't seem to work out too well for the Raiders. The Saints were 5.5-point favorites. They won 30-9. We did have an Alvin Kamara first touchdown at 5-1. And my thinking was that nobody else in that game was good enough to score touchdowns. We did get a couple from Taysom Hill. The Cowboys were 5-point favorites. Looked like we were just ready to go with that one. Here we go. We're going to cruise to a victory. Dak throws the pick 6, and he looked a little shook, man. He looked rattled. Washington almost came back and won that game. I was sweating that one out because it was one of my favorite plays we gave on the show. Tino and I talked about it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We watched it go from 3.5 to 4 to 4.5. We still liked it. Still also liked it on the Sunday morning betting show when it moved to 6, but we really had to sweat that one out towards the end of the game. Seattle was favored by 7.5, 33-13, a final for Seattle. Denver was favored by 7.5. Now, we gave Detroit on this show, but on the Sunday morning betting show, I had to come off of that with basically, there was a ton of COVID cases with Detroit and a lot of key players not playing in that game. I don't even know if they rostered a full lineup heading into that game last night. There was talks that there were a couple people short. They got smashed 38-10. The Chargers were 10.5-point favorites. They crushed the Giants 31-27. Talked about Cincinnati and San Fran. It was a 26-23 final for the 49ers in overtime. Tampa Bay, 3-point favorites. They won in overtime 33-27. They had a big lead, and credit Josh Allen. He looked pretty good coming back for the Bills late in that game. And then Chicago, they were 13-point favorites, and they won 45-30. So a lot of the favorites had big days. And I said to you on Friday that I wanted to come on this show with like the MVP of the day in the sports world. I'm going to give it to Rashad Penny. I am going to give it to Rashad Penny. It's been a long time coming for Rashad Penny and the Seahawks. You know, a former first-round pick, hasn't really done anything in the 4 years that he's been with Seattle, but yesterday was really solid from him. 16 carries, 137 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. His ownership in Yahoo leagues is 21%. I was fortunate enough to be able to grab him, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, and roster him. I think moving forward, he's somebody that, a tough spot against the Rams, but I think it's going to be his backfield. I think he's going to be the lead, even though Alex Collins, quote unquote, started that game. It is going to be Rashad Penny moving forward. But there are some tough matchups, like I said, against the Rams and against Chicago. But I think overall, Rashad Penny is going to be one of those top waiver wire pickups. But this is it. The fantasy football regular season is pretty much done, unless you're playing an 8-team, 10-team league where you have a 2-week playoff. That's certainly possible. But week 15 now, it's playoff time. We're really not going to the waiver wire and grabbing guys. What you have on your roster is what you have. But I suppose if you were rolling out a Kareem Hunt last week as a flex, or yesterday as a flex, or you did have some Eckler, and it does look like he's going to be fine. Melvin Gordon was that other running back. I don't know if I mentioned him off the top. He's dealing with like a sprained thumb, but it looks like he's going to be fine. He came back and scored 2 touchdowns. Javonte Williams also had 2 touchdowns, as it went back to basically being a split, kind of like how we thought it would be. But man, Javonte Williams, next year, let's go. Sammy Wallace hanging out with us, Penny Breakout, and Laquan Treadwell, low-key useful over the last 3 weeks. Former first-rounders making a comeback. Yeah, both of those guys, right? There was a lot of hype with those guys when they were drafted, especially with Laquan Treadwell, right? He bounced around a couple times. Didn't really work out for him in Minnesota, but he's been the one bright spot for the Jags over the past few weeks, we'll say that. All right, we'll take a quick break. Elijah Penny, Rashad Penny. Really, Tino? Come on. You don't believe that. Tino's in here next. We are going to preview tonight's game. We'll talk Rams. We'll talk Arizona. Arizona crushed them earlier in the season, 37-20. And we'll talk some props. And then we'll also get into some playoff scenarios as well, as things I think are pretty much wide open in the AFC, and still a lot of 6 and 7 teams in the NFC with a fighting chance thanks to Washington losing that game to the Dallas Cowboys last night. All right, quick break. We'll be back here next. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. All right, welcome in. Mean Streets continuing here on Game Plus Network. Tino Rodriguez coming in hot with the Star Wars hoodie, a little Nets action. And we are going to preview tonight's football game. But before we do, I want to get your thoughts. Any takeaways? It was really a chalk week, right? A lot of the favorites not only won, but they crushed opposing teams. Like there were some dud games yesterday. Just, other teams blowing out other teams. And still, I still have a lot of questions about the AFC. But any big takeaways that you have from yesterday?
I think it's what you said. Like the favorites are starting to win. Like I think it was nice that the underdogs were pulling up some upsets earlier this year, but I think the NFL's we figured some teams out. It was so inconsistent. Everyone's still middle of the pack, in essence, but teams are starting to show their colors. I'm worried about the Bills. That's my biggest takeaway. Now, what do you do, right? That game wasn't really close, and I don't know. They got back in it for what? The Bucs end up winning, and now we talked about it last week. The Colts had a bye, but you're going to see two good teams. You're going to see a good team miss the playoffs. Like now it's like, I wish we had another playoff spot, right? It's like, is there not enough? Is there not enough playoff spots?
Well, I wonder about the Ravens, man. Like we talked about that last week with the injuries that they have. And now Lamar Jackson, like if this guy misses time, we'll get into the playoff scenarios in a little bit. We'll break down some of the remaining schedules. This is week 15. There's only a couple weeks left here. But yeah, I really do wonder about Baltimore. Cleveland kind of let them back into that game. Like if they could have got a couple first downs, Cleveland still won the game, and they would have got a couple first downs. They would have, won by double-digit points. But this Baltimore team is just decimated with injuries, man. It's crazy that they even had a chance to win that game yesterday with Huntley coming in and them recovering that onside kick. Like it was pretty remarkable that they were, had a chance to win that game at the end.
I love a backdoor cover. I don't want to be greedy. I stood alive with the Ravens +3. They could have won that game. They were down 2.
Oh yeah.
They had the ball, near the 50, and then obviously things didn't turn out. Dude, the end of their schedule. I mean, they're still in first place, but Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers. If Lamar can't run, like, could they go from first place here to missing the postseason? I mean, Cincy and Cleveland could easily pass them. They're one game away. I mean, if Cincy wins last night. I mean, it's not even a conversation, right? I mean, they still have to play each other, but they would have been tied going into that. So I don't know. I mean, we got ourselves an ending here in this division. And the Steelers, 6-6-1. They're all kind of in it there. They're all kind of in it.
Yeah, they are. Josh Kalachi, what up? Hanging out with us on a Monday. We appreciate you. Yeah, nothing better than Mean Streets chiming in with the pennies. Penny Hardaway over everybody. Yeah, do we have another penny? Is there another?
I have one. I don't know if anyone's gonna know it. It's not a famous penny, but Penny Proud, a little Proud family action. Shout out to Disney Channel. Yeah. Proud family. That's all I got. Right. If any, name what other pennies do we have? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like there's this movie with Penny. This is girl Penny in
like
it?
An actual penny, like a coin.
Oh, is that Lost Penny, the girl? Oh, an actual penny. Yeah, we don't have pennies in Canada anymore. Can't use them.
Don't use a penny? Why can't you use a penny?
We just got rid of them. Done. No pennies.
Don't. I guess pennies. They were tired of people.
They retired pennies.
People just keep leaving pennies around their list. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, you just chuck them all in the pond. Sammy's hanging out with us for Chase.
Oh,
Penny all vodka. Oh, baby. Let's go. Here we go. Yeah, Kalachi, what up? Welcome in, man. Hang with us more on Mondays. Having fun like this. Okay, let's preview tonight's game. Sam's wondering about Chase Edmonds, if he's going to be active. He is indeed a game-time decision. Yes, Penny from Lost. I knew it was from Lost. Quite the pull. What a great show. All right, tonight, Arizona and LA. This is a good one. I called it the game of the week earlier in the week, and I think it certainly has that potential. We have Arizona 2.5. I see some spots. Yes, so DraftKings is 2, FanDuel's 2, BetMGM 2.5, PointsBet 2.5. Caesars is 2.5 as well. Why wouldn't you just take the 2? I mean, whatever. I mean, win by 2, you get it. LA plus 115. Back them on the money line. Again, use our free prop shop and parlay calculator to get the best possible odds. You don't have to shop around. We got Zona as minus 135. The total at 51.5, 51 in some spots as well. So with these two teams, I mentioned earlier, they played in week 4. Arizona smashed them 37-20, and LA had just came off of that big win against the Bucks, right? They had that big win where it was almost like a Super Bowl win for them. McVay was completely fired up. He chased Sean Jackson down the tunnel after one big touchdown. He was really feeling it. And Arizona just smacked them in the mouth. So they're 7-0 on the road. They're 3-2 at home. They're 9-3 against the spread. 2-3 against the spread at home. The Rams 4-2 straight up on the road. 2-4 against the spread over that span, and 1-5 against the spread over their last 6. This is a team that only has covered once in their last 6, and it was against the atrocious Jacksonville Jaguars, led by this guy named Urban Meyer. Tonight, what do you think? From a pick standpoint, I feel like you're on the Rams, right? You and Jill, you guys are on the Rams here tonight?
I'm on the Rams. So here's what I'm thinking tonight. So I'm trying to map out this game. And I think if you notice in the first one, it was just, I mean, it was a mollywhopping, right? They beat up on it, but really they just couldn't stop the run. I mean, Chase Edmonds, so we don't know if he's back today, but he was super successful the last time they versed the Rams. James Conner got the 2 touchdowns, but Edmonds was doing whatever he wanted. They actually managed that backfield really well against the Rams, probably the best they had all season, definitely at the time. The Rams have to do better at stopping the run. That's why I kind of like the Rams today. I think if they force Kyler to throw the ball, they can win. Obviously, that plays to their strengths. I think if they air it out, it plays to the Rams' strengths and, airing it out too. Obviously, Sony Michelle is their running back tonight with Darrell Henderson out. Looks, he had a good week last week against the Jags, but I'm not buying the Sony Michelle hype. I know someone in the chat said 2 touchdowns today. I mean, maybe they got to be plunges. I don't think he's going to be able to do it from far. I think James Conner, watching James Conner's play this game is going to, make or break the Cardinals. I think if he dominates, if he's able to get going again, the Cardinals have a recipe for success. If they can't get James Conner going and try to do too much with Edmonds off the injury, maybe eat into Conner's carries, I think it's going to shoot them in the foot and give the Rams a chance, because I love Van Jefferson tonight. I think Kupp is going to explode. I know you're on his prop, his over. Mm-hmm. I think that's smart. And in the can't lose parlay, we have him to score a touchdown. But it's really the running game. I think it's the running game. That's the decision maker in this game on who's going to win or lose. And really just on the Cardinal side of things.
We'll have to reveal the can't lose parlay at the end of the show. But yeah, Kupp is in there, right? I need Kupp to score a touchdown here for a 10-1 anytime touchdown. I have Fournette, Kamara, Adams, Javonte Williams, and Kupp to round it out. I mean, he's been such a beast. I mean, Eric was the guy, I think, who had the comment here, and maybe Arizona defense, St. Louis defense, anytime touchdown. I mean, that guy's been hot calling some random anytime touchdown. I mean, both defenses are phenomenal. I could get behind Arizona. I'm backing the Cardinals here tonight. We've just been finding excuses for this Arizona team. That's it. I feel like all year we've been saying, okay, well, they're just They're better than their record says. Do we believe in Arizona? Like, maybe we should, man. Maybe they're just this juggernaut squad. They've been much better, as we said earlier, on the road than at home. I have a lot of respect for this Rams team too, but man, they're just not playing good football right now. They really aren't. And I like this Arizona defense. I mean, Football Outsiders has them number 3 overall. They've been, strong against the run all season. Against the run, Arizona number 15 against the run is only okay. Number 3 against the pass is really where they kind of shine in that
Meaney,
secondary.
I think the one thing that'll stand out today too is the presence of Von Miller. He played a lot last week, right? That's why they have him. That's the biggest difference from this Rams team from the last time. Obviously Odell Beckham, but I don't want to talk about Odell. I mean, let's not talk about Odell, okay? But
he's trending up.
Yeah, on his 2 catches last week. Man, touchdown dependent. I mean, maybe he does it again this week, right? It'd be like the 3rd week in a row. Towards the end of the game, he just gets one. Maybe if the Rams are down, he does it. But I think Von Miller's presence is going to be key here. They got to flush Kyler Murray. I think he can do it with his legs. I don't want to give away all your
Let's
props.
bring up the props. Let's bring them up.
I don't want to give away all your props.
Let's bring them up and talk this out. Yeah, what do you agree with and what do you don't agree with here? Yeah. So Arizona you don't agree with. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he's hit the century mark in 7 games. Every game but one. That one game did come against Arizona, but he was still targeted quite a bit. So I got to take the over 90.5. I take it every time with him. I think he scores a touchdown too. It's just not great odds for him to score a touchdown. Van Jefferson's averaging 7.2 targets per game over his last 6 contests. He's the deep threat guy in this offense. Like, he's had a lot of drops. I don't like him to have over 4.5 catches. It's plus money. He probably drops a couple, but he only really needs 2 grabs to get to this number, and he's cleared it in 3 of his past 5. I think Rondale Moore is sneaky. Again, to Jeff Ratcliffe, his projections, his spot on, man. Like, the guy is so sharp. We've been talking about his projections on this show for a couple weeks and just trying to find edges on other books. I mean, all these books have Rondale Moore at 23.5 receiving yards. Jeff has him for 33 in his projections. He had 28 against the Rams earlier in the season. He's cleared 7 times this year. I think DeAndre Hopkins in this game is good for Rondale Moore. I mean, Jalen Ramsey really didn't shadow Hopkins last week. I mean, he lined up outside 8 times against them, but he was mostly in the slot. But I do expect his attention to be on Hopkins. It kind of leaves some soft coverage for Rondale Moore, maybe Christian Kirk, and I think AJ Green, who had a pretty good game against Arizona. He's pretty sneaky. But for Kyler Murray, he's not running around as much as he did last season. I think, honestly, it has to do with them blowing out teams. He hasn't needed to run around. But I think what you said with the Rams generating a lot of pressure with Von Miller and company, that he could flush the pocket a couple times here. Yep. So 39 yards is what he had on the ground against the Rams earlier in the season. I also think he scores a touchdown. He's done it 5 times on the ground too his last game, and he's plus 200. The guys I think score touchdowns are not like great odds. Like Kyler at 2-1. Connor, I think, finds the end zone. He has 12 rushing touchdowns, and then Cooper Kupp. But what do you make of these props? What are you on? What are you not?
So, yeah, I love everything pretty much on here. I'm on the other side with the Rams. But the thing with Kyler, to what you said, and I kind of alluded to it before, is that I think if you're the Rams, the game plan has to be to get pressure on Kyler. And, dude, Kyler's slippery, man. It's one of the best things he's good at. Yeah. Like, I think they can have success in stopping him, but he can still score and get over his rushing. Like, I think both things are possible. I think they're able to get pressure, and both things, can be true. The one I think could be a trap is Rondale Moore, just because I think he's going to do good, but they utilize him in jet sweeps a lot. Like, I think it's one of those games he could like break a jet sweep for all his yardage, even score a touchdown on it, and they probably get away from him. Like, I think he has to have some success on the ground. I love him in the offense. I love how they use him. Going side to side. I think he had 2-3 rush carries last week. I'd have to look, but they've been utilizing him more. So that could just be a bad beat. That would be one of those frustrating ones. He gets like 20 yards receiving, and then, the rest.
So the other one I had in there was AJ, but like AJ's tough. He's at like 40 yards. Like, I don't know if I want to go there with AJ, but I think he's going to have one of the better matchups here today. And also of note, like, we're talking about Chase Edmonds. We don't know if he's going to play, if he's going to be active. He's a game-time decision. I do think that even if he is active, it'll be, maybe a 60-40 in favor of Connor. I think Connor's been pretty good here over the past couple of weeks. But Sony Michelle is another guy to keep an ie on. Like, there's nothing when it comes to his props. Darrell Henderson's all but ruled out here, right, on the COVID list. But there's nothing for Sony Michelle. I mean, for his props. I mean, he's minus 120 for a touchdown. We don't like that. But I think, like, from a catch standpoint, he had 3 catches in his last game. I think anything at 2.5 I'll probably take. And he had 24 carries for 121. A really good matchup the week before. This one's a bit tougher here, but this is a guy that probably will get 20 opportunities here today if there's no Darrell Henderson.
So, yeah, I wanted to mention, just because I know how quickly we go through this, I wanted to mention two guys since you brought up AJ Green. And I've told you this forever, even with fantasy. I just have a hard time trusting him. I think he's in a good spot. I know someone's on Christian Kirk. I saw in the chat. I think he's a super sneaky play. I think this is a good spot for Zach Ertz. We talk about how many people are playing for the Cardinals. We just mentioned 4 weapons, but they off play action with Kyler on the move, with how Connor and Edmonds has been running from a game plan scheme perspective. I just think him scoring a touchdown. Props aside, I just think in the red zone, you're going to see targets to Zach Ertz today. It makes sense. He's been down. He's been up and down. Pretty touchdown dependent since he's got to the Cardinals. Hasn't really been used all that much, but I mean, just in terms of even fantasy or from a touchdown perspective, it's all you need, right? I'm not expecting him to have a monster game. He could. I know they don't cover tight ends great, but I think he's in a great spot. I just think with all these weapons, all these decoys, all these other people to worry about, Zach Ertz is sure-handed and reliable in the red zone, and I think Kyler's definitely going to be looking for him tonight. I like him. I think he's over 2-1. I'd have to shop it again and get the number, but
yeah, I'm seeing 240, plus 240 for anytime touchdown for him. The Rams have given up 3 touchdowns to tight ends since week 8. We had Revan Jordan for Houston scored a touchdown. Jeff Swain for Tennessee scored a touchdown. Ooh. And Jeff Kittle in week 10 had a touchdown. And they played the Jags last week, so it doesn't really count. So you can say the last 3 games, I suppose. Well, they played Green Bay too, but they don't really have much rolling for tight ends either. First touchdown. You got any shots here? First touchdown. Man, the Rams defense and the Cardinals defense, according to, Orange, we're gonna break here. But Orange Man, I mean, those aren't bad bets at plus 550 for Arizona. I know it's crazy, right? We're talking craziness when we're giving out defensive touchdowns. They are pretty rare. But if I'm picking, these are both really good defenses, and I'm picking one, I'm going to lean with Arizona on the fact that Stafford hasn't looked his self over the past few weeks. Multiple injuries. He had 3 games in a row where he threw a pick 6. So it's if I'm leaning one side, it would be Arizona to score a TD.
Well, so I'm just looking at it. I love it. Orangeman, are you in with me on 35-1 Arizona defense first touchdown, right? If you're telling me first touchdown, let's go there. I also wanted to see Kyler. Yeah, 35-1. I'd probably go. I mean, Kyler's 12-1. That's not that bad.
I don't mind that. I don't hate that.
I don't mind that. Yeah, I like him to score first touchdown. I like him to score. He was going to make the can't lose parlay, but I was able to get the show graphics prior to making the can't lose parlay, so I tried to bob and weed around it. Bob and weave, well, rope a dope, but you guys we'll get to it.
We'll break here. 2 guys are gonna take a shot on for first time. As I'm looking at the odds, is Kyler and Van Jefferson at 13-1. I think it could, just the fact that he's got that high A dot, right, and it could be a deep shot that we could get from him. But yes, not great odds on Kupp or Connor to score touchdowns, but I think both, along with Kyler, find the end zone. All right, we'll break. We're going to continue the NFL talk. We're just going to look at some of the AFC, NFC playoff pictures here, and I see some people hanging out with some NBA. We do have some NBA props. You got 5 3-point props for you, and Tino's got some NBA picks as well. So keep your lock. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney and Tino Rodriguez here with you. Mean Streets right here on a Game Plus a Network. Hang by for some NBA picks and some props. I'm going to also talk a little Fantasy Hockey Waiver Wire for Week 10 of the season. No games on the ice today, but a bunch in the NBA, so we hopefully have some winners here for you. Let's bring up the AFC playoff picture, right? We talked about this earlier. So we do have New England up there at the top at 9-4. Tennessee gets the win at 9-4. And if the playoffs started today, they would play the Buffalo Bills. That was a really entertaining game earlier in the season. And news broke yesterday morning that it does sound like Derrick Henry will be ready to go for playoff time. What a freak, of course. Is there any doubt? Kansas City, man, they are just playing really good football right now. I think opponents have 10 points per game against them over the last 6 contests. They're playing really good on defense, and they're starting to find a rhythm on offense. The Colts here for the first time over the past couple of weeks since we've been doing this. They get in at 7-6. They would play Kansas City, and then the Chargers at 8-5 with a W yesterday, and then the reeling Baltimore Ravens at 8-5. There's a few teams that are in the mix here. What do you make of what you see? Again, kind of Baltimore is that team that really does stand out to me. Is this is a team that 3 weeks ago they had that number 1 spot. Now I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, dude.
Well, yeah, I didn't look at that slide, just how tight everything is, that it's, the Colts are in there at the 6th spot. I think that's super interesting. And it just shows you, I mean, the 2 other AFC North teams we talked about aren't even pictured there. So, I mean, talk about craziness. I think when I look at that slide, everyone's just going to be really mad when the Chiefs end up with the 1 seed. Everyone's going to be so mad. They wrote them off. You wrote them off. I wrote them off. And then kind of midway through the year, go ahead.
But we did talk about the value with them when we brought up the Super Bowl odds, didn't we? It was like 14-1, and we talked about Mahomes too.
We talked about futures. I have my futures on them. I'm glad I got in on it. But like, I mean, you're just seeing it unfold, right? I mean, that's all this is. That's you just gotta, I mean, credit it, man. Give credit where credit's due. I mean, it hasn't always been the prettiest. They still have a next, tough 3 games. Chargers at Cincy. And in the middle there against the Steelers, but 3 playoff teams basically. So it won't be easy to finish the season. Everyone's kind of tied there, but dude, the Chiefs get home field. They get the only bye in the AFC. That is not what anybody wants to see in that conference, man. Nobody wants to see that. We were talking about how the Chiefs were about to have to go on the road for a game. I mean, if the Chargers beat them, I think they jump them in division. They beat them earlier this year. So based on the tiebreaker, if they have the same record, the Chargers would end up winning that division. But I don't know. I think the Chiefs get their revenge in that game next week. And yeah, we'll be sitting here talking about the same story. Dude, Bucks Chiefs. We said it. We didn't want to sound chalky.
We did.
It looks like Bucks Chiefs right now.
And really it's so lame. It really is. Like, I don't want it. Like, no. I really don't, man. Like, give me Bucks and Pats. Give me Belichick and Brady. I'm here for that. But I don't want... I don't know, the playoffs, anything can happen, but we said it. It does seem like it was kind of just heading down that path, even though Kansas City was struggling. But now they just seem to be playing with that swagger and that confidence. And just so many random things happened to them when they were going through that bit of a losing lull, right? It was like so many drops. Like, nobody has more drops than the Chiefs over the last, 7 weeks.
Isn't it weird how they've been doing it? Travis Kelce hasn't necessarily popped. Tyreek Hill
hasn't even needed to.
Not good. Like, right, he's been super inconsistent. Mahomes up and down, and they're winning. It's odd, and I think that's the scariest part. I feel like they haven't even clicked, So
right,
I was just betting on KC. Nice, George. Nice. Here's my question to you: if we do get it again, if we get Tampa KC again, who wins that? Who's your early lean here? You gotta go with the champs, right?
I would go with Tampa.
I think it'd be a lot of the same too. I think they would. They beat up on him like last year again. Who's stopping Lenny? Who's stopping Lenny on the Chiefs?
Can't stop him.
It's unreal how good. We can get to the NFC.
Great.
We'll get to the NFC, but if he continues to play like that and play like he did in the postseason last year, I just don't see how the Chiefs stand a chance, which would stink. That's why I don't want to see that again, because I think we've seen the storyline before and we know the Bucs will win.
Yeah, I mean, they revamped their offensive line because of what happened, right? I mean, that's basically it. They got torched, and the offensive line couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes in that game, and Mahomes was just, he was scrambling for his life. There are three teams that I wanted to talk about here in Baltimore. So if Baltimore doesn't get in, Cleveland and Cincy are right there. Those teams could win the division potentially. So, and Denver is kind of right there at 7-6. So Denver plays it's such a big game this week against Cincinnati.
Denver's at 7-6 too. Oh my God.
right. So these are the teams 7 and 6: Cincy, Cleveland, and Denver. Denver plays Cincy this week. They play Las Vegas after that. They're going to have a game against the Chargers, which is going to be, in Denver, or that one's going to be in LA rather. But that's still going to be a big game. And then KC week 18. And heck, man, if the Chiefs keep rolling this way, they could rest players. So if Denver were to beat Cincy and Las Vegas, they leapfrog Cincy, and then maybe that would leave Cleveland with an opportunity here to win the division. And Cleveland plays Las Vegas, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Cincy. So, man, it is completely wide open. I think the biggest thing is that NFC North is completely wide open. And I think that I have the lean to Cincinnati winning that division. We talked about them last week at plus 270 as a team to potentially win that division. But a lot of moving pieces could happen there with those 4 teams. And yeah, Denver's, man, they're not out of it. They really aren't. They play good defense. Going into Denver's a tough place to win and perform, and they have a really strong 1-2 punch into the backfield right now.
Dude, in the AFC, the playoffs start next week. I mean, realistically, you got Chargers, Chiefs, Vegas, Cleveland. Now, Vegas is out, but they're 6 and 7, just saying middle of the pack. Patriots are going against the Colts, and then you mentioned it, Denver, Cincy. I mean, all these teams that are in that picture are playing each other next week, basically. Division on the line, seeding on the line, spots on the line. Wow. Exciting. I mean, huge. Just when I thought I was burnt out from this week of the NFL, week 15 is about to throw us for a spin.
Yeah.
We got, you know what? Speaking of, let's go to the NFC because I got a matchup I want to bring up to you.
Let's break, and we'll talk about the NFC. Don't go anywhere. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. All right, welcome back in. We're going to take a look at the NFC playoff picture here. And if you thought the AFC was a cluster, here we go. We'll bring up the teams that are in the playoffs, and then I'll tell you the teams that are in the hunt. So yeah, here we go. We got Arizona up at the top, 10-2. So if they lose that game today, Green Bay will jump up into that number 1 spot. Arizona will go in that 2 spot. You got Washington at 6-7, tough loss. A lot of injuries happening with Washington too. And that was part of the reason, right, Tino, that we were on Dallas. Not only does Dak own the NFC East, and he's covered now, I think he's like 19-8 now against the spread inside the NFC East, is that like Sweat was on the COVID list. Obviously, no Chase Young. And then we got San Fran and Tampa Bay. So Tampa's at 10-3. Like number 1 seed is certainly in play for them, especially if Arizona finds a way to lose this game here this evening. The Niners, I do believe, are in. That was a big game, a huge loss for Cincinnati yesterday, but a big win for the San Francisco 49ers at 7-6. And then for 3 straight weeks now, the matchup has been Rams and the Cowboys. We've talked about it a couple times, laughing about these. I suppose Dallas is a team that's always like overhyped and seems to, disappoint. And then the Rams, Stafford's a guy that's really struggled against teams over 500 and in the playoffs yet to win. But he did play for the Lions for 95% of his career, so we can give him a little bit of a pass. But, man, so we look at that. But there's also the Eagles, who are 6-7, along with Washington at 6-7. These 2 teams play each other this week. We have the Vikings at 6-7. We have the Falcons at 6-7, and the Saints at 6-7. So it's pretty tight, man. There's a lot of teams in the hunt, and Philly and Washington playing each other a couple times could benefit a team like Minnesota, especially if there's a split there. Maybe Minnesota picks up a couple games if they could take care of their own business. But I don't want to be a homer here, man, but Philly's in a pretty decent spot.
So a couple things I alluded to. I'm definitely bringing up the loser leaves town game for this week in Washington at Philly. Seriously, the team who loses that, I mean, Washington's You got to feel bad. They were hot, they were rolling, and all of a sudden, things come crashing down. Terry's hurt. Kyle Allen was playing for them yesterday. Don't love that for the football team. But here's the interesting note, I think, for the playoff picture. Things change, every now and then in the NFL, but they also stay the same. Are we going to see another losing record team make the postseason for the NFC? Is this going to happen again? It happens all the time.
Yes.
The 7th seed is going to be an NFC East team with a losing record, and they're going to get in, and everyone's going to be mad about it, and then they're going to give someone competition in the first round, and it won't matter.
Yes.
And
it won't matter. But
that's what I see. I just see 6 and 7 everywhere. I mean, the Falcons, the Saints, I can't see any of them having a winning record. The way it is right now, they're not good teams.
So if Philly wins this week, they can go to 7 and 7. They can beat the Giants and be 8 and 7, and then they lose to Washington 8 and 8, and then they lose to Dallas 8 and 9. Right? So that's kind of how I view it.
Yeah.
That's what I think is probably going to be what happens here. But I don't see any of those other teams when you bring with that board other than Washington. They're all in, right? They're all in.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco would have to really bottom out, right? I just don't see that happening. Huge win against the Bengals. And they're going to play the Falcons next week, so they can kind of give themselves some cushion in terms of that, which will be nice. And they're home. And they're home for that matchup. But the Falcons do get the Lions here. But unfortunately for them, they play the Bills, who will desperately need to win after that, and then the Saints. So, like we mentioned with the AFC, it's at the point here, and it's, I give the NFL credit to that point. I think it's super competitive. It makes divisional games down the stretch here super competitive. I think the schedules are kind of working out in favor of the extra playoff spot right now. And it's nice. It is exciting. I think we're getting really good matchups. It's early playoff games. I mean, there are playoff-like feels. Bengals, 49ers, and Bills, Bucks, they were 2 really good games last night. I mean, really, really good games last night. Quality football all around. So, yeah.
All right. Minnesota has Chicago, LA, Chicago, and Green Bay. So I think that they can get to 8 wins. So it really will come down to those NFC matchups. What's going to happen there with those teams maybe beating up on each other? Philly's plus 250 to have a wild card spot. I think that's pretty decent odds for them. And Minnesota, let me just check quick time. I wasn't really interested.
I'm looking at it right now.
They're plus 250 as well.
They play the Bears twice. They're at Chicago next week, so they should have 2 more wins to get them about 8 and 7. But then they're against the Rams and at Green Bay. So you're looking at 8-9-2. There's going to be a losing record in the playoffs. It's happening. We're calling it now. It's gonna be the 7th seed in the NFC. And I'm here for it. I love it. And they're gonna win. I will be betting whoever that 7th seed is. I'm telling you in advance, I'm betting them.
They probably play the Bucs, or maybe have to go into Lambeau, right? But I think pretty tough. But you never know, man. You never know. You never know.
I felt better about it if it was Washington. If it was Washington going into Tampa, then maybe, right? Or what if there's I guess if the Vikings do get in against Green Bay, that could be an interesting matchup. They played each other close, right, the last time they played. So that's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to it. I'm betting it. I'm betting it money line ahead of time. Futures bet. Money line on the 7th seed.
All right. Tomorrow we'll take a look at Super Bowl odds, MVP odds, as we only have a couple weeks left in the season, and it'll be a quiet Tuesday, aside from 1,000 games in the NHL. There's a bunch of games in the NBA. Tino's got some picks, got some props. Keep your lock. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. You're watching Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney and Tino Rodriguez. So a busy night in the NBA. I see people still hanging out here in the chat. We appreciate you. If you could smash that like button, that would do us a huge favor. And if you have any questions, you can leave them there in the comments section. I'll get to them as well. Create a little bit of a conversation. Have Mean Streets on the rise. Here we go. You got some NBA picks. I got some NBA props, some three-point props. I'll let you go first. You take it away, sir. What's on your card here tonight?
So let's recap. We had a really good Friday last time we gave out picks, and by really good, we went 3-0. Love to see it. We went with all road teams. We'll have a trend with that again. The overall theme here, we're looking at the gigantic board of NBA games, and we're just trying to bet the good teams. And if we can get a decent line at it, seriously, I'm really
I agree.
The NBA has been so unpredictable, and it's going to be hard to say because I do have the Hornets on here. But the overall theme is try to see these injury reports and catch it. So they're not on here. I do want to start. I love the Suns tonight. Paul George is out for the Clippers. Without him, I just don't think they have much. I know Devin Booker's out for the Suns, but that line, it's in the can't lose parlay, which I'll say in a second here, but it's under 4. Anything under 4, anything under 2 possessions, I love. We got the Warriors going into Indiana. They're trying to break history. They try to do it against the Sixers, who are also on this. The Sixers look back. They don't have Ben Simmons. Nobody wants Ben Simmons. It seems like Ben Simmons is in purgatory. I don't know how they think they're going to get Damian Lillard for him. That's a conversation for an NBA show. We won't even get into that. But we are taking the Sixers here, -3. We're taking the Warriors to also cover again. Good teams to cover. We do have a redemption game here now for the Bucks. Giannis is on this graphic, so they're out of the can't lose parlay for those reasons. But we're getting money line against a Celtics team who are home, and they are slumping. I think they've lost 3 or 4 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Though the line is the way it is right now. 1, probably because after I make these picks, Giannis will be ruled out for some reason. But 2, they beat up on the Bucks the last time they played. They handled them pretty well. So I understand why the line kind of is the way it is, but it might be recency bias. I think the Bucks are starting to figure themselves out after a slow start, and I really like them there. And then I'm taking the Hornets here, Meaney. I'm taking the Hornets +2.5. So they're without LaMelo. This is the definition of a COVID game here. They're versing your Mavs, who don't have COVID, but they don't have Luka, which doesn't make it much better. And a bunch of people on the Hornets have COVID. That was the joke there. But I like the Hornets getting 2.5 points against a team that we both agree in the Mavs that just are not very good. Can't lose parlay. I know we only got 4 minutes here. Let me get it off. We're going to go Suns money line, Sixers money line. We have the Warriors money line, and we're going Cooper Kupp touchdown. That's a little over 7-1. Me and George put our last shekels in the DraftKings account and whatever else gambling account we have to try to turn some profit today. So if you guys want to tail it, that's the can't lose parlay.
George, you didn't combo that? You actually all 4 of these on the money line? Can't lose Monday? Oh, clear eyes. Full hearts, Tino. I love it. I dig it. All right, let's bring up the NBA. Can't lose. Let's bring up the NBA props here, and then we'll do a break, and we'll get to it. Yes, Eric Rodman, I am on Curry threes. I am buying into this narrative. Of course, this is plus money. Listen, he's only hit this in one time over his last 6. He has had at least 6 threes in 6 of his past 9. He does obviously lead the what's the can't lose? Orange Man, you're killing me. He does lead the NBA with 13.4 threes attempted per game, 5.4. He only needs 7. He needs 7 to break the record. Ray Allen holds that record. I think he does it tonight. I know there's a lot of talk in our FTN Discord and our Slacks that he does it tomorrow against the Knicks. Nah, he does it. He does it tonight, guys. Garrison Matthews, we hit last time we did this. This is a guy who has been hitting consistently 27 3-pointers. Just his attempts really over the last 2 weeks have been off the charts. 9.1 attempts over his last 8 games. That's what I'm into, all the attempts. But he does have 27 threes made over the last 2 weeks. That's second in the NBA, and he's cleared 2.5 threes in 7 of his 9 games. Fred VanVleet is plus money here at 3.5. He's averaging 3.2 threes per game, which is the 4th most in the NFL. He has at least 4 threes in back-to-back games and 5 of his past 7. 10 attempts per game over his last 4 and 23 shots from beyond the arc over his last 2. Luke Kennard is not plus money, but he's cleared 2.5 in 5 of his last 6. 3 straight games now with at least 3 threes, 14 threes over his past couple of games. So he's been jacking them up from beyond the arc. And then the final one I got in here is Chris Middleton over 2.5. This one is plus money as well. Just a couple plus money ones here. It was up at the top was Curry, Van Fleet, and then Middleton here. So 22 threes from beyond the arc, the attempts over his last two, and 8 in 4 of 5. So he has been shooting from beyond the arc, and he has been hitting as well. So I know that the Curry number is pretty high, guys. That one's really my least favorite of the bunch. To ask somebody to hit 7 shots from beyond the arc is pretty crazy to think about. We do have to break. We have one more segment here, but for Ray Allen, 18 seasons in the NBA, currently holds the record, 2,973 threes. Curry's at 2,967. Allen set that mark in 1,300 games, while Curry has played 787 games. Reggie Miller holds down the third spot on that list with 2,560 threes. I think he does it today. Do you think? Yes or no?
Sure.
Okay, you don't. You hesitated too much. Yeah, that's it. Nope.
We're done. We're done.
NHL. A little bit of NHL waiver wire stuff here next. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back in one final time. Let's talk a little NHL. We only got about a minute or so, but there's no games on the ice here. So I will have a Fantasy Hockey Waiver Wire article with rankings, rest of the season rankings live at ftnfantasy.com. So let's bring up a couple players here, Tino. These guys are all on teams that are playing 4 games for the week. You know, Jesper Bratt is just criminally under-owned. Like, he's probably owned in, like him and Josh Norris I put on this list, but their ownership is fewer than 60%, but they've just been really, really productive. And I know the Sens are not a great hockey team, but Drake Batherson back in that lineup. I like that top line in Ottawa with Tkachuk and Batherson. So Josh Norris, Jesper Bratt, these are players that should be owned. They're not just 4-game streams. Martin Necas is just really trending up. Carolina's got 4 games this week. And then William Karlsson, his ownership is only 30%. He just returned to the lineup a couple days ago, and he's playing in a top 6 role. Vegas starting to get healthy, and they are clicking. The one guy here on this list that isn't owned in a lot of leagues is Andre Kasha. So the other day we had a plus 230 anytime assist for Kasha, plus 180 for a point, and plus I think 125 for 3 shots on goal. Kasha's up on that top line with Austin Matthews, and he has at least 3 shots in 4 straight games. He's got points in 4 straight games. He is a volume shooter, 71 shots, and he's a pretty good goal scorer as well. So Andre Kasha could help you out. That's it for myself, Tino, George, running the boards, hanging out in the chat. Everybody, good luck tonight. Enjoy the football game. Good luck in the hardcore, and we will be back tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.